Hey everyone, welcome to Fantasy Book Reviews. My name's Nick.
And I'm Ray. And today we're going to be doing a tier list of all of the Wheel of Time books, 1 through 14, with minimal spoilers. We're not going to really get into the books. We're just going to give them an overall ranking of where they're at until our book reviews are done for all the books, and we'll give a more in-depth review and ranking of them. And stay tuned for all our book reviews of them as well. And with that, let's just start off with the book we didn't read. Which one's that?
Yeah, so New Spring. New Spring is not a part of the actual series. So neither of us have read it at this point, and we are not going to include it in this one. So,
Yeah, who knows? Could be an S tier, could be an A tier, could be B.
mm,
I don't know. I haven't read it, so it's
yeah,
gonna go. I didn't read.
yep,
And let's start with book one, The Eye of the World. I gotta say right off the bat, I'm gonna put it A. Just let's drop it at A, and as we go
I
along, we can
agree.
move it around. Right?
I agree. I would put this at A tier.
I think it's a phenomenal book, a phenomenal starting book for a fantasy series. I don't know if it's
It is.
necessarily S tier right off the bat, but
Hmm.
um, these places will change as we go along too. So,
Yeah, agreed.
um,
It is still a fantastic book, but yeah, not S.
yeah, overall, our Eye of the World is just read it. It's a great first book. Some of Robert Jordan's most fast-paced writing, I believe. A lot of
Hmm.
sequences in it that are phenomenal, and really, you start to see a world just unravel, which is beautiful.
Yep,
Book two,
yep.
The Great
So,
Hunt. What are your thoughts? Where do you think it should go?
so I would place this one in low S tier personally. I could see it going in high A, but I would personally have it in low S.
Low S. What are your reasonings versus Eye of the World?
I love this book. I
That's
really
fair.
like the whole plot, all the sequences that happen. I love all the characters that get developed. I just really enjoy this book.
I think the book is S tier aside from the final sequence, which I think's B tier, but I'm not gonna not give it
Uh,
S
Okay,
tier right
then
off the bat because of one
put it.
sequence out of a beautiful book.
I was about to say if you don't think that the ending would meet that S tier requirement, put it in high A.
Well, we'll leave it at bottom S for now because I do think it is better than Eye
Yeah.
of the World. Um, it's just the ending. I don't think is. I think Robert Jordan was still finding his footing for ending a book, and this book
Yeah.
definitely doesn't meet that mark. But
It need yeah.
the rest of it sure shit does.
Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
um, the Dragon Reborn. I'm going to plainly say this is better than the Great Hunt and Eye of the World. S tier,
Yeah.
I would say.
I would agree with that. Actually, I guess if we're gonna put Dragon Reborn, and we can wait to drop it down. If we're gonna put Dragon Reborn in S tier, I would actually move the Great Hunt into a top A
Top A.
personally.
Do you think Great Hunt should be the entrance to S tier then? If you're better than the Great Hunt, you should be
Probably.
S tier.
Probably, yeah. That would that would be good.
I could agree with that. Specifically because if the ending of the Great Hunt was better, it would be S tier, bar none. But I
Yeah.
think a
I
lot of
think
these books
both
have phenomenal endings.
I think both The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt have issues with their ending that get worked out after book three, right? I think book three has a good ending,
Yeah.
um, and and those after it have really good endings. So yes, I think Robert Jordan was just working it out still whenever he wrote the first two books,
Mm-hmm.
and they could use some work, but it's still great books.
That's fair. And I think the Dragon Reborn definitely is S tier. I think it's. I don't know where it sits in the S tier yet, but I think it is S tier because throughout it, you see the world completely open up even more, which is already hard to do because the Great Hunt and the Eye of the World already make the world huge. And then Dragon Reborn's like,
Yeah.
oh hey yo, it's bigger though, and
Well, and so this kind of brings us into the Shadow Rising, right? Book four. So the thing with the first three books is they feel like a trilogy to me. And the Shadow Rising is where this series goes from being a trilogy to turning into an epic series, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
yeah, this book it's like the turning point of the series, and I think this is a hard S tier.
I think Shadow Rising might be the top two. We'll put top two for now in the
I was
series.
about to say this
Um,
is my second favorite book in the series.
I can tell you which one my favorite is, but we'll get to that in a sec. The Shadow
Yeah,
Rising
just
definitely is. So with the really the first three books, they build this world, they make it large. Dragon Reborn, it completes that initial arc, and you're like,
mhm.
well, where else could they go? Shadow Rising comes in, and it's like, yo, we go everywhere though. Check it, you know, and it completely takes this big world and like triples its size in one very well written book. I don't think there's a bad
Yeah,
sequence in this book,
yeah.
and
This book is fantastic,
yeah, I
and
think
that's why I would put it at high S tier. Like
uh,
this is a great book.
even outside the series of just the Wheel of Time, I think this is one of the just most probably well written
Mhm.
fantasy books of all time.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree.
However, there's a personal place in my heart for this next
Mm.
book, which is my favorite book in the
That's so
series.
funny. This is also my favorite book. I was gonna say
Uh,
that.
the Fires of Heaven, I'm going to put above The
Yep,
Shadow Rising, personally.
I
Although,
agree.
is it
I would
better?
agree. I
I,
think so.
I'm not an English major. I couldn't tell you, but I could tell you right now, I rate The Fires of Heaven as the best book in this series.
Agreed.
Um,
We both agree on that one. I've heard a lot of people say that Shadow Rising is their favorite, and I can
yeah,
definitely see why it would be someone's number one. But yes, personally as well, The Fires of Heaven is my number one, and I would, because this is our tier list, I'm gonna put it in the top S tier, in my opinion.
yeah, 100%. I would say this is the book to beat if you're going to beat it. And I just most of these books in the series, they're really good. And right now you're seeing us place S and A tier overall. And don't worry, there'll be lower rated books coming up. Um, but really, The Fires of Heaven and Shadow Rising, and even The Dragon Reborn are definitely S tier fantasy books. Like, there's
Yeah,
just no
there.
doubt in my mind
Yes,
with that.
there. I agree.
Lord of Chaos.
So Lord of Chaos. I would put the Lord of Chaos also in S tier. I would put it in low S tier. Personally, I think the Lord of Chaos is better than the Great Hunt. Um, maybe not by much, but I would put it better than the Great Hunt. I think this is low S tier.
Low S
If we're
tier.
using the if we're using the Great Hunt as the barrier to S tier, I would put it low S.
Hmm. See, Lord of Chaos, I think, is better than The Great Hunt, for sure. Um, Dragon Reborn, I think, in ways it's better than, but also it's not as impactful, you know? Um,
Wait, which one? Sorry, say that again.
Lord of Chaos versus the Dragon Reborn. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think Lord of Chaos is more it's written better in a sense, but it's not as impactful as the Dragon Reborn. Um, Lord of Chaos, S tier. I mean, there's some stuff I didn't like in Lord of Chaos,
Okay.
and,
You can
and
put it in A.
I want to put
I'll
this in like A
go
plus, S
go ahead and
minus.
put it in A, and I'll at the end, if I have any big differences, I'll let you know where I would have put something.
We'll put this at the top of A for now. Crown of
Okay.
Swords is definitely A tier. Um, where at in A tier? I'd say bottom.
So a Crown of Swords, I would put it in low A if it's gonna be an A.
Yeah, this is where I think Robert Jordan
See,
starts to hit the middle sludge. We'll
yeah,
call it.
well, yeah, this book I think has some issues, or
Yeah,
at least I have some issues with it,
yeah.
with the Crown of Swords. So
This is where I think the series starts to get a little unfocused and too much is added in that isn't impactful to the overall plot. It's still a great book, which is
agreed.
why,
I still like this book.
yeah.
I would, like you said, if you want to put it in low A, I would personally put it in B tier. Um,
Mm.
that's
See,
just a personal opinion.
the Path of Daggers, where would you put that?
I would also, I would put that in B tier.
See, I think Crown of Swords is much better than the Path of Daggers.
Okay, and
Um,
that's fine. Yeah, that's why I'm saying, like, I
but I
think
think the
Path
Path
of
of Daggers
Daggers,
is a B tier book.
yeah. And I would put personally the Crown of Swords in that as well, but it's fine if it's an A with me.
We'll come back to that. We'll place these next two. I can tell you now, Winter's Heart. Mm. Only one thing happens in Winter's Heart, really. Only one big thing. And that sequence is cool. But the rest of
Yeah,
the book
there's
to me feels like shit.
right, there is one major thing. I don't I like some of these. I personally would put Winterheart in low B or high C tier.
Yeah. That's
Like if it's in B, it is definitely the last book that's in B. Otherwise, it's in C.
we'll drop this here for now. We'll drop it in C for now. For now. Crossroads of Twilight.
Crossroads of Twilight, I have a hard C. I put it in low C.
I put it in D, dude.
Yeah, I could see that.
This by
Crossroads,
far is
so
the worst book in the series.
yeah, and it sucks because here's the thing, right? The things that happen throughout, I think starting in Winter's Heart, or maybe what was the one before Winter's Heart? What's book eight? Path of Daggers.
Mm-hmm.
So the story and the plot that starts in Path of Daggers and continues into Winter's Heart, it continues into Crossroads of Twilight, and it's necessary because Robert Jordan's using these books to bring everyone back together. But man, is Crossroads of Twilight a rough book.
Yeah.
It's tough. This
Yeah.
is peak slog, as some fans would say.
Yeah. And to take the Wheel of Time fandom out of this, I think Crossroads of Twilight is just a book I don't enjoy at all.
Yeah,
So that's why I
no,
would put it D tier. It was
I'm
a
gonna say,
necessary book. It was necessary.
mhm. I
But
think at this point, Robert Jordan was just getting too big of a world, too many characters.
uh,
Everything was too spread out, and he had to use a book to bring things back together,
yeah.
which he used this one for.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, it's necessary, but it's a rough one.
And with that, we get a stellar, I think, return to form of Robert Jordan.
Hmm.
I think Knife of
Yeah,
Dreams is an incredibly well written book, and it's Jordan after a couple
yeah,
books of the
yeah. So
fans not loving it, he comes back and
yeah,
kills
and
it.
yeah, in the Knife of Dreams, right? Two of these events that have been going on through the course of two or three books, for a couple of the characters finally come to an end. Um, Yeah, I would put this one, and now it's such a going from Crossroads of Twilight to Knife of Dreams,
Yeah,
I think makes you feel that it's a little higher. I would put it in low A or high B tier, personally.
I would put it above A Crown
I
of
think
Swords.
definitely, yeah. If it's in B tier, I would put it in the top B tier position. Otherwise, I think it can go in the last of the A tier positions.
How does this look? That look a little better, I think. I think that makes more sense.
Yes.
We
That's
can
fine. I
we can
can
still
agree with
tweak it.
that.
Yeah.
I'll yeah, I'll give you my changes at the end that I would do, but I definitely yes, I'm fine with this.
Okay. Gathering Storm. So the first book co-written with Brandon Sanderson, and you can tell. I think the
Yeah,
Gathering
so
Storm is
I think
not Brandon Sanderson's fault at all. That it feels different. I mean, he's a different author, but I think it's the one that
I mean
most sounds different.
I mean it is Brandon Sanderson's fault, but I don't think it's it's not he's not doing it on purpose. He's obviously coming from his writing style and trying to mimic Robert Jordan's writing style. So yeah, you definitely this book is particularly it's not bad, right? I like this book. It's a good book. And I'll tell you right now, I would put this book in A tier. I would put it in low A. But some of these characters, specifically Matt, Brandon Sanderson has some issues writing with their voice, you know. So and I think I've heard Brandon Sanderson say that this was his by far worst book of the three that he wrote.
Yeah, and I think everyone would agree with. I don't think it's a bad book by any means. I mean, I love Brandon Sanderson's writing. I just think because you're coming in and taking over from Robert Jordan, right?
Hmm.
That's a huge task for anyone to do. So I
Yep.
think this first book was Brandon Sanderson finding his ground, and I think it suffers because of that. Um,
Yeah, there's a this is like peak kind, I guess, kind of spoiler here. This is peak Rand madness going on, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff in this book that I really enjoy the sequences, but yeah,
Hmm.
the writing is a little bit distracting because of how new Brandon Sanderson is to the series.
I would.
And justifiably so.
It's yeah. I would give this honestly an A tier if it didn't feel so different from Robert Jordan, which
Okay.
I think Brandon Sanderson fixes as he goes along really
I
well.
agree.
Um,
Okay. Then I would put this one in high B.
I'm putting it at the top of B. I think it is better than A
Yep.
Crown of Swords and Path of Daggers by far, but it is worse than
Agreed.
Knife of Dreams just because of the feel.
Yeah. Okay.
And with that, Towers of Midnight is where Brandon Sanderson really starts to shine, I think.
Yeah, Towers of Midnight, I would personally give S tier. I love this book.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite books in the series.
Do you so lower than Dragon Reborn?
I would put it above Lord of Wait, did we put Lord of Chaos in
No, Lord of Chaos is top of A
A?
tier.
Okay, then I would put it below Dragon Reborn. Um,
But S tier?
but S tier, yes.
I would also
I
give it
think it's
S tier.
better. I think it's better than Lord of Chaos. And it's just behind Dragon Reborn.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the final book, let's think. There's 13 books, massive world, not the original author. You only have notes to work with, and an ending written by Robert Jordan. I have to say, I was worried Brandon Sanderson wouldn't be able to get this as right as he did. Were there some issues?
Mhm.
Yes. But
Yeah,
think about how well written this is for ending
yeah,
the a massive series.
yeah, he does a good job. He definitely does a good job, especially for the position that he's put in. Unfortunately, right, I'm sure everyone wishes that Robert Jordan could have finished the book, but unfortunately, he was unable to. And for what it is, I think he did a great job.
This one I would put above the Dragon Reborn, personally.
Really? Okay.
Hmm.
See, and this is where we're gonna differ. I knew that we would differ on this book. I would put this book in A tier below The Great Hunt, personally.
Really?
This is where I knew we would have a big difference in this book. And again, A tier is still an A. It's still fantastic in my opinion. I just personally wouldn't put it in S. But
Yeah.
go ahead, put it in S. Put it where you think, and I'll let you know because there's a couple of positions that I would change that I wanna say.
Well, so that's what we'll talk about now. So top of S
Yeah,
tier, Fires of Heaven. Agreed?
agreed.
Then The Shadow Rising. Agreed?
Agreed.
I mean, those two books are just so
Yeah,
good.
I think those are definitely the best two books in the series. And
Yeah.
obviously this is my opinion and your apparent opinion apparently. But yeah,
So
best of the series.
the reason I would put A Memory of Light next, and this is my reasoning behind it, is I only had one major issue with the book, just one, and that was the death of a character. But aside from that, I just navigating what he had to in that book and wrapping it in the pristine gift that it came, I thought was a miracle. Honestly, the only person who could have done it better was Robert Jordan, and
Okay.
and
I
because of
Yeah,
that, I mean, it's specifically the fact that he has to wrap up the story, and he did it so well is the reason I would put this up here because it's a good ending.
okay. Okay.
You know.
Like I said, here, let me give you what I would do, right? S tier, Fires of Heaven, Shadow Rising. Then I would do The Dragon Reborn,
Mm-hmm.
Towers of Midnight, and I would put Lord of Chaos at the end of that.
S tier.
A tier, A tier, I would then have The Great Hunt, A Memory of Light, The Eye of the World, and then The Gathering Storm. B tier, I would have Knife of Dreams, Crown of Swords, Path of Daggers, Winter's Heart, and then in C tier, I would put The Crossroads of Twilight. And I could totally go for D tier on that, but I'm gonna put it in C tier.
Okay.
That's my listing, and we're not too far off, right? I think the end of a couple of these tier lists I have put up and you have put down. So the big discrepancy for us is definitely A Memory of Light.
Yeah.
And again, it's a great book. I think Brandon Sanderson did a great job. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Honestly, the one change I would have on the list in front of me, right, is
Hmm.
I might move Towers of Midnight down into A tier, to be honest.
Okay.
And this is me trying to be as critical as I can, and that's because Matt's character in Towers of Midnight, I mean, Brandon Sanderson, I agree, didn't write Matt the best. But also, the big
Yes.
Rand is now Jesus. Um,
Really? But we so in this book as well though. You're right. This is the fully realized Reborn, right? This is Jesus
yeah,
Rand, this is Avatar Rand, whatever you want to call it. Um, but we barely hear from him in this book.
yeah. It's just when he comes in, he's like, and the flowers blossom, and the winds sing, and it's like,
Yeah,
it just feels
I
a
like
little.
it.
I mean, I like it because we had
I
so
personally
many books of Rand just right,
Yeah.
and
And but yeah, and I like it because right, and he kind of is able to like counterbalance, intentionally counterbalance the Dark One,
yeah,
and I I like it. I'm a fan, and
yeah.
we don't hear from him at all. But yes, you're totally right. The Matt writing is still
Mhm.
rough, but this has some of my favorite Matt sequences throughout the series.
Oh wait.
Uh,
Which book has Parents' Trial? Is it Towers of Midnight or A Memory of Light? I forget.
that is this one, Towers of Midnight.
That's why it's here. I
That's why you put it A.
I hate that
That's fine.
trial.
I also do not like it. I'm still in my personal list. I'm still gonna leave it an S.
Yeah,
But
if that
I
sequence
totally,
wasn't in there, it's up there.
I totally understand, and I support the opinion of putting it in A tier. That's fine. As long as it's not lower than A, I'm totally on. That's fine.
Yeah, I think we can all agree. Crossroads to Twilight, weakest book. Winter's Heart, second weakest book, with a phenomenal sequence in it, though.
Yeah, might I say I still enjoyed Winter's Heart, and I think Crossroads of Twilight is the only one that I had difficulty reading through,
Yeah,
right? Crossroads of Twilight is it's a very boring book. Um, but especially on my first read through, I had no issues with any of the others aside Crossroads of Twilight.
I started having issues with honestly A Crown of Swords on because
Okay.
a lot of the plots, I don't know, there was just something about it that didn't feel as
Man.
imminent, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think so. I think once Robert Jordan got to A Crown of Swords, right? I think what happened was he kind of got bored with the main quest, we'll call it. And he
yeah,
really wanted, I think he wanted to explore some more side characters and some more side quests.
yeah,
And you really see him start to do that in A Crown of Swords, Path of
yeah.
Daggers, and Crossroads of Twilight, Winter's Heart. So in those four books, it becomes a slog.
It's actually a really good analogy for it. Crown of Swords, Path of Daggers, that's like 2020 side quests. Those are fun side quests. You know,
Yeah.
Winter's Heart, you
Yeah.
start getting some
You're
oldish
like, okay,
side quests that are fetch
yeah.
quests. D
You're
tier
like, I
Crossroads
kind
of
of
Twilight, you know what side quests those are? Those are fishing side quests.
yeah, you're like, I don't even I'm done. I'm done with the side
Yeah.
quests at this point. Let's get back to
Yeah.
the main story and finish it up.
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah, so
yeah, so my final tier I'd have is and this really I'm you know what I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna add a row above S tier. I'm gonna name this God tier fantasy books, just in general God tier fantasy books, right? Um, in the sense that I think they are the best fantasy books ever written, and that's Fires of Heaven and Shadow Rising going up there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think those
Okay.
two are just in all. And I've read a lot of fantasy books. Those two fucking kill it.
They're killer. I
Um,
totally agree.
and then with that though, let me change them because now I have A Memory of Light at the top of S tier, and I don't want that. So hold on, let me fix some shit. So Dragon
Just
Reborn, A Memory of Light, Towers of Midnight, I'll put back in S. That's how I'll do.
raising it back.
So God tier fantasy books, I have The Fires of Heaven, Shadow Rising. S tier, Dragon Reborn at the top, Memory of Light, Towers of Midnight. Dragon Reborn at the top of S for me. It's an emotional thing, because
That's fine.
that's where I first was like, dude, this is the series, you know.
Yeah.
Then Lord of Chaos, Great Hunt, Eye of the World, Knife of Dreams, in that order for A tier. B tier, Gathering Storm, Crown of Swords, Path of Daggers. C tier, Winter's Heart. Mind you, that's C plus B minus.
Yeah.
D tier though, I will always put Crossroads Twilight at D tier.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I gave mine, earlier. So
Yep.
it's still the same, but I totally see it.
Yeah. And with that, thanks for stopping by for our tier list. This is as spoiler free as we could make it.
And if you enjoyed this video and you like this sort of content, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button to stay up to date with all of our new videos.
Thanks for watching. Ray out.
Bye.